Today, I found out that the CIA is preparing some kind of criminal referral against me, a crime report to the Department of Justice on the basis of a supposed crime I committed. What's that crime? Well, talking to people in Iran before the war. They read my texts. So the crime under consideration apparently would be the Foreign Agent Act or something like that, acting as an agent of a foreign power. And I don't expect this to go anywhere. I'm not too worried about an actual criminal case against me for a bunch of reasons. One, I'm not an agent of a foreign power. Unlike a lot of people commenting on U.S. politics and global affairs, I have only one loyalty, and that's the United States, and have never acted against it. Its interests are the only interests I care about because I'm from here and I have a lot of kids.
So there you have Tucker Carlson sitting in his studio that he has really grown a podcast out of after his exit from Fox News, talking about being the subject of a CIA investigation. And now I have to say, I was a huge must-watch, DVR'd it, watched it almost every night, Tucker fan when he was on Fox News. Very upset when he was let go. Supported him as soon as he started his initial podcast, empire, whatever it might be. But have just been kind of like squinting my eyes and trying to see through the fog to make sense of what's been happening ever since. And Larry Alex Taunton joins us now. He's the host of Ideas Have Consequences, a must-subscribe on YouTube. Larry, I am always grateful when I see that you're talking about this because I'm like, okay, everybody quiet, sit down, I have to listen. I wanted to give you the opportunity to come on the show and maybe make some sense out of what's going on in Tucker world. Thanks for coming back with us today.
Well, it's good to be with you, Annie. Well, Tucker, it's been quite fascinating to watch what began happening first with Candace Owens, who at one time I think we would have said was kind of mainstream conservative, and now we're seeing Tucker Carlson go down a very similar path. And then Megyn Kelly doesn't seem to be too far behind. So it raises a lot of questions as to what's actually going on with Tucker Carlson. My own opinion, and I say this not having had any conversations with Tucker Carlson, but simply trying to read the tea leaves as to what's going on here, is that Tucker, there's an interesting comment that was made some years ago by a historian who said this. He said that man is never so dangerous as when he can identify a personal grievance with a matter of principle. And I think that what you're seeing with Candace and with Tucker is that these are people who are hiding their personal grievances, whether it's anti-Semitism, whether it's bitterness over being fired by Daily Wire and Fox and things of this nature, and they're hiding it, they're wrapping it, they're shrouding it in principle. And I don't really see any kind of principled objectives here on the part of either of them. And Tucker, I think, is increasing. There's a reason why Tucker Carlson is now one of, or if not the most listened to podcaster in the Arab world.
Yeah.
In the Arab world.
I always appreciated on Fox News that he would approach things in ways that I felt were different than what everybody else was doing. He wasn't afraid to criticize things that maybe I would have not been critical of, but be able to hear something that isn't just an echo chamber all of the time makes me think a little bit more about where my positions are. So some of the takes that he has had, he went to Russia and he was taking a position at a very tenuous time that the rest of the United States conservative movement really wasn't. But now we see it seems as though it's kind of waterfalled from you've mentioned Tucker and Candace and Megyn Kelly here. But there are a lot of people who seem to be very influential from the right online who are very connected to Arab culture, Arab countries, and very anti-Israel, I'll just say it in that way, in the way that they speak, like it's as if that's their purpose now. Their influence isn't about smaller government, getting rid of fraud in Minnesota and then California, but now it's about making sure that everyone understands we're anti-Israel now. Why would that be?
Yeah, and notice how none of them are mentioning the SAVE Act. I mean, if you really care about the United States, Tucker, why are you not pushing the SAVE Act? Why are you platforming guys like Nick Fuentes? Why are you platforming individual pseudo-historians like Daryl Cooper? Why is it that you always seem to have a single theme? Anti-Israel. What's going on with that? Annie, I was just couple of weeks ago, maybe a little more than that. I guess it's been more than a month now. I was in Israel. I went to Jerusalem. I went to Tel Aviv. I went down to Gaza last year. You may recall I was in Egypt. I was in Cairo. I was trying to get the kind of the Palestinian perspective on the war. I ended up having a standoff in the streets of Cairo for almost 3 hours with the Egyptian secret police. Needless to say, they weren't interested in actually allowing me to see anything. On the Israeli side, the IDF, the Special Forces, gave me a battlefield tour. They didn't prevent me, they didn't try to stop me from seeing anything that I wanted to see. And what I find quite fascinating with all of this, with Tucker and Candace and others, is that, for me, this isn't a great moral dilemma, taking a look at the war here. October 7th of 2023 was an act of war. It wasn't a Charlie Hebdo type of event. It wasn't just a which would be enough, a terrorist attack on an outdoor music festival where some people were killed and some atrocities were committed and some hostages were taken. It was an act of war. More than 7,000 Hamas terrorists penetrated the frontier with Israel in more than 100 places. They penetrated 20 kilometers into Israel, a battle site that encompassed more than 600 square kilometers, more than 50 battle sites, more than 1,200 Israelis dead when it was all over. And where these Hamas terrorists, they were carrying with them, many of them, scripture verses, from the Quran. They were carrying with them Qurans to assure themselves that what they had been ordered to do, to commit acts of rape, to commit acts of mutilation, that Allah was in favor of all of this, that what you were doing was very much in keeping with what their God believed. And for me to see guys like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens pretending as though this didn't actually happen, and calling it false flag, calling it, as though all this is just simply made up, is to me abhorrent. I mean, it is vile, morally vile, reprehensible kind of stuff. So I think that people be very wise if they listen to them, understanding where they're coming from, and to check. I mean, genuinely check the facts of what it is that they're saying.
Yeah, and I agree with that entirely. If you want to subscribe to Larry Alex Taunton, go onto YouTube and find Ideas Have Consequences. His podcast is a must listen to, a must watch. There's one name that kind of rolls around in my head when I'm trying to make sense. I don't mind if people think differently. I don't mind if people have different perspectives, especially if they can present them in an intellectual way where maybe I'm like, okay, I understand what you're coming from, but I still wouldn't agree on said policy. It feels as though Charlie Kirk was the person who had all of these people in the same camp, like one arm over here, and was able to keep everything together. And that in his absence, it just feels as though it's a free-for-all. That I don't know if they're fighting for to fill the Charlie Kirk space, or if with Charlie Kirk being out of the way at this point, that they can now make a whole point of their individual niche in politics or persuasion and foreign policy. Is there a starting point for you where you feel like this really started to go off the rails for some of these conservative influencers?
It's a great question, Annie. I think probably, at least in the case of Tucker, I've believed for quite some time that the Biden administration, particularly COVID, kind of unhinged Tucker. And what I mean by that is this. I think Tucker, the discovery, he's always been a bit of a Boy Scout. And I mean that in a good way. He always you spoke of his monologues, and when he was on Fox News. Tucker Carlson's appeal when he was genuinely representing a conservative perspective was that he was kind of the Jimmy Stewart of a conservative news commentary. He was just kind of the everyman, brought common sense to the topics. But COVID, it seems to me that the discovery that his government had been lying to him on a variety of things, which I think for most of us just meant, okay, well, fool me once, Shame on you. Fool me twice. Shame on me. But I think for Tucker, it led to the uprooting of his entire worldview, so that suddenly the moon landing, wasn't real. The founding of America wasn't real. Americans weren't the good guys in World War II, and on and on and on. And then he starts having podcasts about giants ruling the earth and space aliens. And I mean, these are all things that he's actually discussing on his show. I think that Tucker never really had an authentic conservative worldview that was rooted in anything meaningful. And the result of that is, or anchored in anything meaningful. And the result of that is he's become all sail, no anchor. He's just all over the place.
Yeah. Larry Alex Taunton speaking with us right now. One of the anchors used to be, this is kind of left us now that President Trump can't run for re-election. One of the anchors was, we had to coalesce around this one person who gave us this one shot to, especially in 2024, get us back to where we need to be, away from the Biden years and the deception and the fraud that has taken place and grown exponentially under those 4 years. Donald Trump doesn't seem to have that same sort of anchor point for the conservative movement right now. Is there no anchor point for the conservative movement, and have we officially been divided and segregated to move in our own directions?
I think that's where the fight is raging, isn't it? Is what is going to be the future of the party? Is it going to be J.D. Vance? Is it going to be Marco Rubio? Is it going to be someone else? I think that's where the battle is raging, is for control of the Republican Party, for control over what has been called MAGA. What is that going to look like going forward? But embedded in all of this are these discussions around, what have traditionally been our enemies, the jihadists and Russia and China. And oddly enough, some of the most prominent voices who are fighting for control of the conservative party seem to be people who are coming down on the side of those enemies. I mean, that's odd. I mean, you've probably seen some of the mashups of Tucker Carlson's commentary on Islam from, say, 20 years ago to where it is now. It is totally shifted, and it's odd. It's weird. Now, a lot of people would say he's been bought and paid for. I think Tucker has a kind of integrity that would not allow him to do that. But I do think the Arab world, they have learned the soft use of power, meaning they have learned that they can use socialism as a Trojan horse towards political power in the United States. And they've also learned they can spend their money to buy universities, media rooms, influencers, armies of bots, on social media. They've learned that, and that they can invite guys like Tucker Carlson and give them exorbitant, honoraria and stroke their egos. And the result will be that when they leave, they're going to say nice things about them.
Larry Alex Taunton with us. Final question. Where do you think Tucker goes from here? Does this get exponentially worse as we move maybe towards the elections in the midterms? How's this end?
Not positively. To me, he's giving all the indications of someone who has become quite unhinged, and he just keeps going down, down, down. At no point has he shown any I mean, the Mike Huckabee conversation was quite revealing to me, because Huckabee was the first person he's platformed that I can think of in quite some time who could actually push back. That is to say, somebody who wasn't platforming to voice an opinion that Tucker already had. And Huckabee exposed him. He embarrassed Tucker. And rather than Carlson coming out after that, when it was exposed that Tucker had lied about being detained, at the airport, you would think that he would come out, there'd be some kind of mea culpa, that there would be some sort of, repentance on his part. Instead, he just digs in, doubles down, triples down. So it seems to me that this is going to end badly.
Oh, well, we're going to be watching, certainly. Larry Alex Taunton, a must subscribe to podcast at Ideas Have Consequences. Thank you for what you do. I appreciate that you're a thinker. We have a lot of speakers and a lot of talkers, but I appreciate a thinker, and that's who you have been for me. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much. Great to be with you, Annie.
Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye. Larry Alex Taunton, host of Ideas of Consequences on X at Larry Taunton, and on YouTube, Ideas have consequences. He is my company when I'm working around the house, and I've got like an episode's worth of time to sit down and contemplate. It's nice. It's a little bit of a different pace than the go, go, go all of the time. Well thought out and well backed up. All right, quick break here. A YouTube poll for today. We're asking you, can J.B. Pritzker be beaten in November's governor election? Today is the Illinois primary, which means if you are an Illinois resident like I am and you haven't gotten your ballot cast yet, you need to get to the polls today. They close at 7 p.m. Get your voice in there, be heard, and we'll see who's going to take on J.B. Pritzker come November. You think he can lose? Do you think J.B. Pritzker could lose the governor?